What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Media Goose channel. I am the Media Goose, your friend Ryan, and the goose is loose. I am here today to talk to you about a show that I so thoroughly enjoyed, Wonder Man. That's right, I am here to talk about the newest show in the MCU. Before I jump into it, do me a favor, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, comment down below what you've thought of Wonder Man. Did you know who Wonder Man was before this series? I didn't. The little bits I've heard of Wonder Man, it kind of confused me more than anything. It's a very unique hero. So I came in not having a lot of expectations, and I think that was the best way to come into this series. I wasn't hoping for a superhero show with huge world ending stakes. I wasn't looking for, I don't know, a multiversal project. I wasn't looking for any of that. This was a show about Hollywood, about being an actor in Hollywood and trying to make it. The show isn't about superheroes. The show isn't about Marvel. It's about Simon Williams fighting for his life to make it as an actor and to keep hidden from the world that he is an enhanced individual. It takes you on such an exciting journey. It was 8 episodes all dropped at once, and that came with its own preconceived notions about what the quality of the series might be. There were rumors that they almost scrapped it, like for tax purposes, like that it was a Batgirl movie, I believe, that happened with, where Brendan Fraser was the villain. They just scrapped it. That almost happened to Wonder Man, and I am so thrilled that it didn't. I am going to start with episode 1 because I feel like episode 1 is a great framing device for the entire season and where we go. So at the top, we start off with Simon Williams seeing Wonder Man as a kid. I'm sure that everybody has a memory of that first time they saw a movie that captured their imagination. And in Simon's eyes, you can see it happening when he's a kid, and it's beautiful. And then we cut to today. Simon is an actor. He's in a very small studio, not even a studio really. It's like a trailer or a closet. And he's doing all the goofy actor things. He's talking to himself in the mirror. He's doing lip trills. They show you his script, and you can tell that he's marked it up, crossing things out, writing the real intention, doing real actor stuff. I think if you're an actor watching this series, I bet, like me, you had such a great time, because we've all been in Simon's shoes. If you've ever tried to be an actor, you have to accept that there's a level of vulnerability, of goofiness, and I think in this show it's really great because you see both sides of what it means to be an actor. The side where he's talking to his family and nobody gets it. The side where he has to be willing to be a fool a little bit. So we go to set and we find out Simon is a day player on American Horror Story. And one of the things that they do first that I thought was really smart was establish that Simon is a great actor. He is a great actor. He's very knowledgeable and thoughtful, and he respects the craft in the way that he speaks to people on set. But then probably the most important sequence of this opening episode, when Simon starts to really dissect the script and he starts to do too much. And as I was watching him, it pained me because I took the note, he just needs to be told no. I know actors like this. I've been this actor. I've been a director working with actors like this, where they're just trying to mine more than is there. And eventually, you just got to make the thing. You gotta you gotta call action and cut eventually and roll. And you start to see people that are just part of the set behind the scenes. You don't think they're important. One phone call from one of those people gets Simon fired. So he's a good actor. He's respectable. But just like that, he's fired from American Horror Story, a show that everybody knows. So right from the beginning, we're being shown how Simon is his own worst enemy. And we see there how acting is almost like a curse for Simon, where he can't stay surface level with it. He always minds so deeply that it's almost like a curse or something he can't allow himself to flow freely within. And then it cuts to him going to the movies for relief. So we see acting is, in one way, a self-hell where he spirals, but then it's also his refuge. And in that movie theater, we see Trevor Slattery. Trevor is so important to this show, and it's so funny to see a character who at the beginning of his kind of arc in Iron Man 3, I hated Trevor Slattery. It really upset me when they kind of bait and switched the Mandarin in the way that they did. And I think a lot of people felt that way. It felt like they made a joke of it. And to be where we are now with Trevor Slattery being this grounded, really thoughtful person is so wild to me. And at the end of the episode, he plants the seed for Wonder Man in Simon's head, and we find out he's working for the DODC. And I know you're probably thinking, you've spent a lot of time on the first episode. That's the entire show that's just been set up. Simon is now pursuing Wonder Man because he has that link from seeing it as a child. Trevor is being forced by the DODC to spy on Simon, and everything moves forward from there. So at the end of the episode, we do see Simon read a scene for Wonder Man, and again, it was excellent. So it continues to double down on the fact that Simon is really good at what he does. And the movie that they were seeing is Midnight Cowboy, which is like an unlikely duo coming together to help each other and learn from each other. And it really sets up Simon and Trevor through this season. So then we get into the rest of the season, and a lot of what we go through. Episode 2, Self-Tape, really leans into the absurdity of acting. It almost feels like a humiliation ritual at times, where he can't find a space. He can't stay at his apartment because of the energy in there and how he just lost his girlfriend and they spent time there, so he needs to get out. Then they go to a self-tape studio and it's a nightmare. They end up at Trevor's apartment where they can't record because they have a loud neighbor. And then finally, this whole episode is very homage to Hollywood and the craft of acting. And there's an actor that comes in. I won't spoil it. I won't spoil big story moments, but I'm going to talk about things. But there's an actor that comes in there that really plays into the way that the industry will patronize you, and the way that everybody in the industry really is constantly trying to sell themselves. And it's really excellent. And at the end of the episode, when they finally do the self-tape, it is grounded and wonderful and naturalistic, and it's just incredible. So again, Simon is a good actor. And throughout this episode, you start to see the friendship of Simon and Trevor, because that actor who comes in, he really belittles Trevor. And you see Simon stand up for him. And that's like a really important moment for these two characters. Now episode 3, maybe the most important episode of the show, where Simon goes to his mother's birthday party with his family, and Trevor goes along. And Trevor forces his way in because he's getting pressured by damage control. And this is a really upsetting episode to watch in a lot of ways because both of our leads, Trevor and Simon, are struggling through this episode. You see Simon not fit in with his family. He doesn't. Going home is often comfort for people, but it's not for Simon. There's a moment where they show a picture being taken and all of the family is alive and smiling and connected, and Simon just doesn't fit in. He doesn't have a family. He's isolated. And throughout this episode, we see Trevor trying to get information out of people about Simon's childhood and about the fire that we find out about, which might have been an inciting incident in regards to his powers. And I think which also may be setting up that he's a mutant. Maybe. And we get more of Simon's backstory here from his mother when his mother and Trevor talk about how Simon never had a friend. And how she really hoped that he found companionship in film, that he wasn't so alone because he had those characters in movies, but she knew he was alone. It's heartbreaking. And at this moment, I think things really become difficult for Trevor because he cares for Simon. And you watch him struggle as he tries to get information out of people, something that he has to do to protect his life. DODC, the damage control people, are threatening to lock him up again. And when I say damage control, it's Cleary, the guy who is in No Way Home, the guy who is in the Miss Marvel, the show. I think they are going to be a massive presence going forward in terms of the government group that will be established to attack the mutants, to go after superpowered individuals. I think they're going to be the big bad, the governmental big bad for the next multiple sagas. And at the end of the episode, we see Simon show his powers for the first time in a real way when his brother just digs into him. And it's heartbreaking because Trevor now has the dirt he needs on Simon. But when they leave, Trevor breaks the wire that he was wearing so that damage control doesn't get that. It's the moment where Trevor chooses Simon over safety. And that's a really beautiful thing because Trevor's a very selfish character previously. So the fact that he's doing a selfless thing, that's really big. Then episode 4, the doorman clause, it felt like an episode of Atlanta. Like, it was so interesting, and I'm not going to go into much of it because it's a really fun story, but it's like a bottle episode that I think also feeds into damage control and discrimination against mutants and powered individuals. Then we get to found footage, and that's episode 5. The anxiety and chaos collide as... Oh, so at the end of episode 4, I'm sorry. I'm reading my episode breakdowns to my left, if you're wondering why I'm averting my eyes. At the end of the previous episode, we find out Trevor and Simon got their callbacks for Wonder Man. And now, found footage, they're out celebrating, and Trevor's past catches up with him, and some thugs attack, and Simon has to use his powers, which is another way of showing how Simon, this character who's never had a friend and is so concerned about keeping his secret safe, he puts himself in danger to protect Trevor. So it shows how both of them are growing beyond the people they were at the beginning of the series. Then there's a whole runaround about getting... So when Trevor gets cornered, Simon has to use his powers to protect Trevor, and they get recorded, and they have to chase that person, and that becomes its whole episode. And then episode 6 is like the biggest... It feels like the climax of the show because it's the callback for Wonder Man. It's everything we've been leading to. By now, we realize, oh, Wonder Man means something to Simon, because of his connection with his father and the way his father empowered him to pursue acting. And the callback episode is one of my favorite episodes of television I've watched in a long time. I've I've been in callbacks where it feels like I'm fighting for my life, where there are people who are so much more talented than me in my own head, where I'm so concerned about what could happen. And you see Simon start to spiral and go into all of these vices he has. And Trevor is constantly there to pull him out. And it's beautiful. And the final moment of that series, of that episode, pays off everything we've been leading to. I won't spoil it, but he's Wonder Man. So he gets the part. I guess I did spoil it. Sorry. But I sobbed. The journey that Simon goes through in that episode alone and the way Trevor brings him back is so moving. And the final 2 episodes, Marvel shows often in their final 3 episodes, you feel them find the groove, and this is different. This didn't build to a big fight or to a big space battle. It finds stakes more grounded than that. And I'm not going to spoil a lot from the final 2 episodes because I want you to go watch. Ultimately, I've talked about these episodes now. Wonder Man means so much to me because it's not concerned about being a superhero show. It's not concerned about tying into the larger MCU, which I think a lot of times Marvel sets themselves up to be criticized with the ways that they connect things and don't connect things. This was just worried about being a good show, and I love that. This was only concerned about Simon Williams as he tries to become a better person, tries to protect himself because of all the discrimination for powered people and superpowered individuals, because of all the things that have been happening in Marvel over the past few years. And this is a top 3 MCU show for me. Yeah, that's huge. It's up there with Loki and WandaVision for me. That's how good this is. This felt like an origin story like Iron Man 1. This felt like Marvel getting back to what they did best in creating characters and letting them live fully realized arcs and stories. Both Trevor and Simon become better people throughout this show because of their time with each other. Trevor, who used to be he's a recovering addict. I resonate with that. Who fully puts himself into acting to save himself. That's my life as well. Everything about this show struck chords with me emotionally at a personal level. The monologue, the scene, and I think episode 3 where Simon and Trevor just trade monologues, I cried so heavily. It was like 2 people realizing they spoke the same language, finding somebody who shared your passion, and now you can both exist in this euphoric state of love and passion. It's one of my favorite scenes I've ever experienced. This show made me a better actor to watch it. This show made me appreciate the craft of acting. It made me realize what every actor is out there doing, sacrificing, trying to make it so all the sacrifices they've made for their craft are worth it. And the way that Simon, the way he loves acting, it's not just his refuge, but it's also the way he grieves and mourns and honors his father. Every time I act, The last thing I do before I perform is speak to my mother and my grandmother, because they are in the front row of every performance I give. So acting as refuge, acting has saved me in the way that it saved Simon, in the way that it saved Trevor. I love this show. I'm getting worked up. Wonder Man's a fantastic show that you need to go watch. It is an excellent show. It subtly sets up things for the future of Marvel while not getting distracted by those setups. This is a character-driven story, and that is what makes Marvel good. Thank you guys for having this talk with me, for listening to my thoughts on Wonder Man. Now, where does he go from here? I've got to think we're going to a West Coast Avengers. She-Hulk, him, Daredevil spent some time on the West Coast. Vision could be over there and has been previously. This show barely touched on how powerful Simon Williams is. My understanding is that he's almost like as powerful as the Void. So we're introducing all of these unimaginably powerful beings right before Secret Wars and Doomsday, and I have to think that all of these pieces are going to come together in a meaningful way. I hope they will. But if they don't, we'll always have Season 1 of Wonder Man. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share this video if you enjoyed it. Help me reach a larger audience. But if nothing else, please go watch Wonder Man. Thank you for watching. The Goose is out.